Hi, everyone. Welcome to Wine.com Experiences. I'm Gwendolyn Osborne. Thank you so much for joining us today because we are celebrating Father's Day with the Mondavi family. So happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. We're glad you're here with us. For those of you who registered and added some questions, great. We are going to include those in our conversation today. If you purchase the wines ahead of time, also fantastic. We are tasting all three of those wines today. So if you want to go ahead and get those open, get some glassware. As always, you are not obligated to open all three today. Remember, this video lives on the Wine.com YouTube channel, so you can always revisit it with whatever you don't get to at your leisure and taste along with us again. So whatever works best for you. The wines that we are tasting today in order are the Oberon Sauvignon Blanc, the Emblem Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon, and the Animo Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon. So these are the three we will be diving into with our three guests who I'd like to introduce now. We want to welcome fourth generation of Mondavi, Dina Mondavi and Rob Mondavi. They are co-founders of Michael Mondavi Family Estate. They are founders of Folio. Rob, I also know you are a winemaker, and then of course Michael Mondavi. Welcome to you. You are also co-founder of Robert Mondavi Winery, founder of Michael Mondavi Family Estate, head coach, which I love this title, at Folio Fine Wine Partners. And we will dive into the rest of y'all's resume as we go through the wines. Otherwise, we would not have any time to taste. So we are so thrilled that you're here with us. Welcome. Happy Father's Day to the fathers joining us. Hello.
Thank you. Happy Father's Day to Michael and all the other fathers out there too.
Thank you. So we're excited that you decided to spend this day with us to talk about such a great family legacy that you are continuing. It is, since it's Father's Day, I'd be remiss not to mention, Michael, your father, Robert, who some see as one of, if not the father of the California wine industry. I know you were by his side for, the foundation of Robert Mondavi Winery. There's your dad with his parents. And then your father, I don't know exactly when it was, what is 40th anniversary of the winery?
That photo was taken in about 1975.
That one, yes. Okay. Wow.
My father graduated in 36 from Stanford with his father and mother, and he was the first member of the family to go to university or go to college and also to graduate.
That's fantastic. So what, you were back there with the beginning of the winery. What were some of your earliest memories of those vineyards and the winery?
First, my father believed that we in Napa Valley had the soil, climate, grape varieties to produce wines that belonged in the company of the great wines of the world. And he was convinced no one had really done that consistently and marketed it properly, and there was an opportunity. And that was his vision. I was a senior at the university when we were talking about this, and through various family uprisings and all, Dad and I started Robert Mondavi Winery in 1966, and there were three employees: my father, myself, and a fellow who loaned us the money to get started. And we had a prayer and a dream, and our attitude was make wine that tastes good.
It's an excellent methodology or vision for a winery. What are some of your favorite memories with your dad growing up in the vineyard?
Well, when I was about 10 or 11, I would go with him during the harvest into the fermentation room. And these were redwood open top tanks, about 6-7 feet in diameter and about 5 feet tall. We'd be up on a little catwalk, and he'd take a sample of that fermenting juice and have me smell it and taste it. The aromatics were so wonderful, and the way that wine fermenting changed every day was exciting, and it just was fun to be with him and learning at that point. But also it created a bug that was the only job I ever wanted, was to be in the wine business and to make wine.
So from day one, when you were 9, 10, 11, you knew it. That's
absolutely.
Awesome. So, Dina, what about you? We're just doing some Father's Day stories.
Yeah,
what are some of your memories growing up with?
My favorite family Sorry, I think I went frozen for a second.
You're here.
One of my favorite memories growing up in our family is the annual blessing of the grapes that we would have. It was a great occasion. My grandparents were there, my aunt, my uncle, my cousins. It was a lot of fun.
I remember reading about that. When was that the first vintage, the 1966 vintage that started? Michael, do you know?
She's frozen, but yes, we started that with the Carmelite fathers who had a monastery just above the Robert Mondavi Winery in the hills. And they would come down for the first day of the harvest every year and bless the grapes and bless all of the people who worked in the vineyards, worked in the winery, and who enjoyed the wines.
I love that memory. Rob, what about you? What sticks out for you being raised in a winemaking dynasty?
No, I absolutely think what my sister said is great. The tradition of the first day of harvest is always just something special. I particularly liked when my dad took me to France and we went to Burgundy, Bordeaux together. And this is, maybe I was 17, 18 years old. And I tried to keep up tasting with everyone. Not possible. So I ended up taking a quick recess to the van and had a little nap. The next day, I decided to, of course, as we do in the wine world, to spit so you can keep tasting responsibly. And at the first place we were at, Margaux, when I tried to spit into the little bucket, it caught my lip and went down my white shirt. So some of the fondest memories are not necessarily always the most glamorous, but it was fabulous.
A great education.
They were more, they were very educational. Don't wear white to a barrel tasting.
Good call.
Good one. And then I guess you had to go to college to learn how to keep up with the drinking, right? That's what college teaches you.
Well, that's one of the things that college does. It's interesting in Napa Valley. I saw many of my friends in university, and we're not supposed to talk about underage drinking, but as a fact of life, those things sometimes do happen. But I saw less binge drinking of those who were educated by their families about alcohol as opposed to not. So education is always key.
Essentially, most of the wine families' children at universities were by naturally the designated driver because they didn't drink excessively. They learned moderation.
Of course, after they were 21.
Of course. Well, yes. Well, that's why they were the designated driver in college. No, I find that myself to be true. I grew up not with winemakers, but with people who appreciated wine at dinner, and it's a different kind of education.
Yeah.
So Michael, now you are in charge of Michael Mondavi Family Estate, which you founded in 1999 with your family. What was your vision for that venture that you began with family?
Well, we knew that some of the future best wines, as in the past, were going to come from the hillsides. And our family at Robert Mondavi had all valley floor. And I felt that for the future, we really needed to get established in the hillside vineyards. And we purchased that land in '99 and then developed the vineyard, etc. And right now, 100% of our vineyards are in the hills. We have no vineyards that we own in the valley floor. We acquire grapes from very, very good growers in the valley floor. But we wanted to really focus on the best that we could produce.
Excellent. And beyond Michael Mondavi Family Estate, you also have Folio Fine Wine Partners. So, you have a wine company with your family. Why start something new?
As the wine business grew in the last 30 years, the distribution grew, but larger and larger companies controlled the distribution. And I felt that the best wines in the world were going to be produced by small family wineries like ourselves. And they were going to have the same problem we had of bringing our wines to market throughout the United States, because we sell wine in 50 independent countries known as the United States. And we wanted to make sure that the fine wine shops, the restaurants that wanted our wines could have them. And so we said, what if we put together like an old guild where the craftsmen would get together once a month to sell their wares? So we represent 23 family-owned, family-run wineries from Europe and one family-owned, family-run winery from Argentina, and we do the marketing and selling of their wines. The interesting silver lining or gold lining on this is through the idea exchange and through the partnership developed with these families, we learn more about the art of wine growing, of viticulture, tending the vineyards naturally, of how to make better and better wines and better blends through comparing our heritage and history of wine growing with theirs. And we each learn from that, and as a result, make finer and finer wines.
That's fantastic. And I feel like that kind of continues what your dad used to do. He did so many amazing partnerships with winemakers, family winemakers in places like Argentina and Chile, and even in California, kind of sharing his expertise, but also gaining that. So I feel like kind of a continuation of all of those.
Yeah, there is synergy and partnership.
Yes, there is, and education and always learning. So let's taste our wines. These three wines that are coming from Mondavi family. So we are starting with the Oberon Sauvignon Blanc. So Michael, one of my favorite stories is your father's venture or foray into making Sauvignon Blanc into California. I remember it from like my very first wine education class way back when. Can you share that story with us?
Well, yes. In 1965-66, the Chardonnay was the most popular of the white wines. Actually, Gray Riesling and Riesling were very popular, as was Chenin Blanc too. But Chardonnay was growing. Sauvignon Blanc was growing a little, but my father believed that Sauvignon Blanc was the natural food wine. It was crisper, it cleansed the palate, it excited the taste buds. And the problem was you couldn't sell it. People just, the name, dry Sauvignon Blanc. So we made a Sauvignon Blanc in 1966, blended 20% Semillon just to soften it a little, make it a little more harmonious, and called it Fumé Blanc, like the Blanc Fumé area in the Loire Valley. And we put dry Sauvignon Blanc below Fumé Blanc, and selling it as a Fumé Blanc in a burgundy-shaped bottle, it took off. It was just a magic combination. Yeah. And to this day, I think that the popularity of Sauvignon Blanc, whether it's Fumé Blanc or Sauvignon Blanc, is because of the Fumé Blanc craze from the 60s through the 80s, where that grape was on allocation for about 17 or 18 years.
Yeah, and just that one change kind of introduced this whole new grape to wine drinkers in the U.S. So I love that. Okay, but we're tasting this Oberon. So you have a connection with the winemaker there, who's been with Mondavi for a while, right?
Tony Coltrane joined us at Robert Mondavi right out of the university. He's worked with us for over 55 harvests now, and he is the winemaker, and he teams up with Rob, and Rob said, hey, I want Tony to make the Sauvignon Blanc for Oberon because he has a wonderful blending process of some of the warmer grapes from Pope Valley that have a rounder, rich flavor, a little higher aromatic, with the Carneros Sauvignon Blanc that has higher acidity and a nice crisper finish. He then barrel ferments about 15% of this to give it a little roundness. And we want a slight kiss of oak, but not a wet kiss of oak.
I like that. All right, well, let's, so tasting this.
It's also a blend of two varieties. It's the Sauvignon Blanc, which is a little over 75%, and then Sauvignon Musqué, which is essentially a cousin of the Sauvignon Blanc. It's more, it's like a muscat. It's very aromatic.
Yeah, it's floral,
just gives
right?
a liveliness, a real nice liveliness to the wine.
Yeah, this is very aromatic, but it's also that it's got that floral and tropical fruit aromatics coming through.
I had a bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwich today with nice vine-ripened tomato and a glass of this Sauvignon Blanc, and it was spectacular.
That sounds perfect. I was about to ask for food pairings, and there you go. That sounds absolutely perfect. And this this kind of represents, I think, a lot of the style Napa Valley Sauvignon Blanc. Having a little bit of that weight you talk about, to make it rounder, to make it softer. It's just
Right.
a pretty classic style coming from there.
Rob, what are your comments on the Sauvignon Blanc?
I've always liked Sauvignon Blanc. I think that and Gruner Veltliner, I think, are probably the perfect summertime wines. They're just fresh and clean, aromatic. And I'm guilty of throwing either a Sauvignon Blanc or Gruner Veltliner in a Yeti with some ice and just enjoying that out on the dock or in the boat. Wine is really about that enjoyment. Now, of course, if you got, a very refined Sauvignon Blanc you paid a lot of money for, you probably don't want to do that. But for a great casual Sauvignon Blanc, why not find different ways to enjoy it that go beyond a beautiful stem, right?
Right. Absolutely. Well, I did have the Animos Sauvignon Blanc last week, and I used a very nice stem for that. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
It doesn't go in a
that
Yeti.
was-
My favorite thing with Sauv Blanc,
What? Yes, Dina?
my favorite thing with Sauv Blanc is icy cold seafood, whether it's oyster on the half shell, a nice seafood tower at a beautiful French bistro.
Mhm.
This wine, I just love it with seafood. And
It would be perfect. Or ceviche too. Like a little bit. It could stand up to a little spice too.
Oh yeah, ceviche, tostada, or even you can get into like a great fresh papaya salad, like a Vietnamese papaya salad. All these wonderful dishes, I think with the freshness and the acidity are great. And then for my friends down in low country in the southeast of the United States, obviously a low country boil with this wine.
A boil. Yeah. Crawfish boil.
shrimp and grits.
Yeah.
Shrimp and grits. Oh my gosh. I come from the South, so I'm a shrimp and grit girl. Love it.
Well, some of those have a little spice. You need the cooling of the Sauvignon Blanc to balance the palate.
Right. But in this one, because it's got that round tropical, not too herbaceous, it goes perfectly.
Yeah. We don't
Okay,
like grassiness in our Sauvignon Blanc.
There isn't too much grassiness, but I'm officially very hungry. But let's move on to the emblem. Dina, we're gonna dive into talking about just emblem. So this is Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon. Tell us a little bit about this label, and obviously the label is beautiful, but the label and wine and kind of what it represents.
This is a really fun project my brother and I started together. We wanted to make a wine to show our generational palate. And so it was really great that my dad suggested the two of us get together to show our palate because he didn't have that opportunity to showcase his own. So for us, this is a beautiful wine coming from a vineyard of ours, kind of a backside of Hell Mountain, Pope Valley region. And it just has some very lush, beautiful, ripe Cabernet fruit. We added a little bit of Petit Verdot, a little bit of Blanc Syrah to soften that Cabernet and make it just a little more approachable. I call this a date wine because it's so easy to drink.
So easy to drink. It is pretty, and it's Cabernet, which is kind of the hallmark, I think, of just the Mondavi history, right?
I don't think there's been a year we haven't touched a Cabernet grape or made a barrel of Cabernet. I think that's been generationally, since the 1920s?
Beginning?
Probably the 40s.
Since repeal.
Yeah.
Maybe even during Prohibition. This is pretty. So, no, yeah, I love this. It is approachable. It is, it's affordable. It is one of those wonderful wines that just kind of it just reminds me of, friends and family, but also having a good meal. So do you have any favorite pairings that go with this?
Lately, we've been making it just really simple with cooking. We have a young baby. So lately I've been doing a lot of just great pork chops in a cast iron with the emblem.
Yeah.
Dust it with maybe a little oregano or a little coriander and, don't overcook it. You're good to go.
Yes, I know I understand. I remember that simple meal path that you're on when you're time constrained. Well, this is so pretty. Thank you for sharing.
And then on the emblem cab, I think what's really interesting is Petit Syrah's become this darling blender recently. And so for those of us at home who have this wine or want to get it, if you like a really pretty aromatic wine with a lot of really beautiful color, that really comes from the Petit Syrah. And that kind of brambly briar patch characteristic comes from that Petit Syrah. And then it's balanced nicely with the Petit Verdot for texture. So I think this is a classic, yet also very modern Cabernet. So I'm so happy that we were able to create this as a family.
What's really exciting to me is that my generation and before that, when you're making a Cabernet, you're going to use essentially only the Cabernet Sauvignon varieties, Merlot, et cetera, et cetera. Rob and Dina decided Petite Syrah can add such beautiful roundness to the wine and make it so approachable and enjoyable right away. Let's try that. And when they served these blends to me blind before they'd finalized the first vintage, they kept asking me, what is the blend? I did not pick out Petite Syrah, but I knew that wine was dangerous because the glass got empty.
That is always dangerous. Yeah, I was asking if you sit, do you do blending together as a family and sit and taste kind of the samples as you blend? And do you include the older generation? No.
At the end.
At the end.
It's a very Argentine answer. Sí, no, no, sí. Yes, no, no, yes. Right. We have the winemaking team really consists of Sabrina from Argentina, coincidentally, and myself. And we will prepare a few different blends for the family. And then the family will come together and taste with Sabrina. We'll taste blind, and we will have dialogue and rank order the wines. And we will try to very respectfully pick them apart, so that then Sabrina and I go back and we'll present more wines. And within those sessions, we'll have pure varietals where we'll adulterate again with the graduated cylinder, and we'll play and become mad scientists. So we try to narrow it down as the winemaking team, and then we want that the palate and the skill set from the family as a whole to really refine.
That makes sense. Well, it's different. It's like, it's different than those classic ones, but it's still so enjoyable and drinkable. And I can see where you would often have an empty glass in front of you. So let's move over to the Animo, which is kind of the Animo. Am I pronouncing it correctly? The vineyard that kind of started this venture off in the first place. What was so appealing about this vineyard? Because this is kind of what launched it in 1999. You decided to purchase it. What made it stand out as something to grab onto? You mentioned hillsides.
I think it was really interesting. So it's always easier to talk about somebody else rather than yourself. So Dad had found this particular vineyard because some of the most remarkable and iconic wines in the 90s were actually coming from the hillsides. So he acquired this personally so that Opus One and Robert Mondavi Reserve had the opportunity to source fruit from it. But you fast forward the hands of time, and when we decided to found the Michael Mondavi family estate and winery, we took this vineyard with us. And so we have this beautiful and pristine vineyard. So it has wonderful volcanic soils, elevation, and everything you could want in luxury Cabernet. But why is that special? And it's special because as you go up in elevation, the temperatures are balanced, the soils get a little less vigorous. So in the valley floor, obviously, you're going to have all the minerals and nutrients that come off the hillsides. You're going to have a lot of growth. So bigger berries. Think about it this way. Bigger berries are like loose tea leaves. Yeah. So when you're steeping, you'll get some flavor. But if you have a lot of tea leaves per square inch that are more, you're going to have more flavor. So why the analogy? Big grapes have less skin to juice ratio. Smaller grapes that you get from the hillsides, they are like having more skin to more juice. And so you just get more flavor and concentration. So Dad, of course, knew this and picked the Animo vineyard.
Animo is a Spanish or Italian word that means soul or spirit. And we thought that we could make a wine that would warm and please a person's soul or spirit.
It's pretty. I was going to ask if this was you had given it the name. So I want to taste this wine, and can you share a little bit about what about the hillside fruit? What are we getting in this wine that reflects or is reflected?
So I think what you really get from this wine is a wonderful textural element to begin with. It's like a really nice hug. There's great flavor throughout the palate, and there you can feel the wine beginning, middle, end. And that sounds really silly, but a lot of times if you taste wines, they'll have a great beginning or a great finish, but this wine is very complete. And I think that has to do with the aspects of the hillside. But what about flavor profiles that you were asking about? When we say blackberry, I think that's a great descriptor. However, I think that there's more than that. You can get into these subcategories of blackberries, you get really nerdy, like loganberries that have more acidity and more punch, or boysenberries, if you've ever been to Knott's Berry Farm. And it's these little nuances that I think are so beautiful within the wine. And that's not to say we don't put these berries in. This all comes from the flavors, natural flavors of the grape. And then, of course, the French oak, that the French government creates these beautiful forests, and they maintain these forests for the production of wine barrels, which is really neat that the French government does that. And so we only use French oak barrels. And for those of you who are wondering, is this a big volume wine or is this a little production? This is 39 barrels of wine on average. And so if you imagine a barrel and you look around your house or your living room, you might be able to put a couple rooms together and put 39 barrels in there. This is a really small quantity of wine.
Essentially 22 cases of wine per barrel.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I know that go ahead.
One of the things that we've really refined, I think, and we're going to continue refining in the future, is the blending with Petit Verdot, Merlot, etc. And we're finding that if you have the right foundation for the Cabernet itself, using the Petit Verdot or Merlot kind of as herbs or spice, the Merlot to soften a little bit, the Petit Verdot to add some more aromatic, that blending, when we're doing these tastings Rob talked about, a fraction of a % difference of any one variety will totally change the texture or the aromatic of the wine. And the whole thing we're looking for, as Rob said, is it a complete wine? Does it please you with the aromatics at the beginning? Does the mouthfeel, is it pleasant and rich? And then does it have a nice lingering aftertaste?
What is the exact blend for this one?
So this is predominantly Cabernet. Yeah, predominantly Cabernet Sauvignon, but I'll go backwards. So there's 1%. This is a new word. 1% Petit Verdot, and that has great structure to it, and that little bit of violet characteristic that you'll find in the glass, or kind of like a bruised flower. And then 4% Merlot, which I think gives it softness. And this particular Merlot is actually from Howe Mountain. It has a little bit of strawberry characteristic to that wine. And then, of course, the rest of it, the rest of 95% is Cabernet Sauvignon.
It's kind of interesting. Both the emblem and the Animo, coincidentally, are 95%. I'm sorry, 90% on the emblem, 95% on the Animo. But the Petit Verdot is the common blender on both of them.
In small percentages. And it does add that color and that floral and those aromatics. So pretty.
Absolutely.
That's great. So Animo also makes the Sauvignon Blanc, right?
We do. We make, I think, a pretty bang up Sauvignon Blanc. So if anybody ever has the opportunity to grab that, we only make 7 barrels. That's it.
Let me interrupt a second. Yep. Speaking of Father's Day, Rob gave me essentially a non-Father's Day present by saving the heritage cuttings and planting this vineyard. So go on.
There you go.
So the original vineyard was one that was brought in the 1860s and planted. And so this actual vineyard is a cutting. So we propagate grapevines by taking cuttings and starting new ones. So this is the 3rd generation cutting out of the original vineyard. And we kept this a secret from Dad for a few years. And he kept asking, what's this little planting over here? We'd always disregard it.
Oh, it's nothing, and drive by.
And so we revealed for him one day, after ample pestering, what we had done of preserving this historic block of Sauvignon Blanc. So the Animo Sauvignon Blanc is truly historic. It's beautiful. There's only 7 barrels made. We put this classically in the auction Napa Valley, and it scores with its financial scores, if you will, in the top 3rd against the big reds.
Against the Cabernet Sauvignon.
And that's really unheard of, to have a white wine perform like that. And it's just because it is so special and has that heritage. I love that you asked that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. We drank it. We had a bottle. And so I drank it, and my husband was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I am practicing for Sunday."
Thank you. One must practice.
It was a really hot day. It was perfect. We had some halibut and shrimp. It was just fantastic. So it was
great. With some of it tonight.
So, it's funny. I have a lot of people ask, how do you learn to taste wine, and how do you learn to describe wine? I think the irony of it is everybody already knows how to do this. It goes back to your childhood memories of bananas, oranges, any fruit, apples. And it's about being willing to smell in the glass and say, I smell a blackberry, or if it's a white wine, as an example, I smell nectarines or apples. And so it's just about having the confidence to trust yourself to have that sensory recall. And then if you really want to get fancy, it's not just apple, it's Ravenstein apple or Fuji apple or pear.
But
Really,
you're right,
yeah.
I call it sense memory when I talk to people. I'm like, this is sense memory. It is not that they're a better taster than you. It's that they have exercised their sense memory of like recalling what something tastes like.
And trust your palate. If a wine tastes good to you, I'll bet the expert agrees it's good. And if a wine doesn't taste good to you, I'll bet the quote expert agrees that that's not a very good wine. So drink the wines that you personally enjoy.
No, it says if you like it, buy it.
Yes. Yes. If you like it, buy it. Yeah. I'm all for it. Yeah. I mean, the best wines are the wines you like. They say that too. But yeah, Rob, I love that because I always talk to people about who think that like, I don't know how to taste. All these people are super tasters that know how to do it. And I think, no, you just have to practice. And like, it's like exercising, your brain, your body, you're exercising your sense memory of recalling things. So
if the wine invites you back into the glass, it's a good wine.
That's right. That's right. Well, these are all fantastic wines. So what else? Michael Mondavi Family Estate also makes an M by Michael Mondavi. Does that come from the Animo Vineyard as well? Where does that come from?
That is also, and that's essentially our flagship wine. And it's a wine that is more classic Bordeaux, and it's firmer. And in today's world where people want instant gratification and don't want to put a wine in their cellar for 5 or 10 years to let it mature and age like you would a first growth Bordeaux, it is not for that consumer. It's for the wine collector who really enjoys a great Bordeaux style wine and is willing to let it age and mature. If you have a son or daughter of a birth year and you want to honor them with a wine that will be beautiful when they're in their 20s, this is the answer.
Okay. We have an 07, so I will keep hanging on to that.
Okay.
All right.
07's a good year, by the way.
I know. That's why we haven't opened it yet. So we'll just keep waiting. I don't have a kid born in that year, but that's okay. So what are some of your other favorite wines just from Michael Mondavi Wine Estate? Dina, do you have any favorites other than Emblem? And does Emblem only make Cabernet, or you make?
One of my favorite wines that I drink a lot is the Isabel Mondavi Rosé. It's a rosé of Cabernet, and it's just a great summer wine. We had a little bit last night on the beach. So.
It's perfect. So that's the IM. That's the Isabel Mondavi. It has the IM on the label. I love the Chardonnay. It's one of my favorites.
I like that.
It's fantastic too. Rob and
Emblem also does have a wonderful Chardonnay.
Right. I think I've had that too.
Yeah, the Chardonnay I think is a really great choice because it's a little bit of a counterpart to I think the very trendy opulent Chardonnays. So this is very lean, it has great crispness and acidity, and it's from the newest growing region in California called the Petaluma Gap. So still Sonoma County, but a cold, windy area. So it's just bright, fresh, minerally Chardonnay. So I think the Emblem Chardonnay is a great little secret. We only make 37, 38 barrels, depending on the year of that as well. So our focus really with the Michael Mondavi family are these beautiful, small, handcrafted lots of wine. And it's been so refreshing to craft wines like this. It really has been a pleasure.
And they're delicious and kind of, they show that passion, which I think is important. Is there anything?
If we won't serve them on our table for family and friends, we won't put it in the bottle. Very simple.
Good. I like that. I will serve them to my family and friends then. Is there anything coming up for Michael Mondavi Estate, or are you just still focused on what we're doing?
We're actually, the nice thing is Rob and Dina are taking over the helm, and they are responsible for taking it to even more wonderful wines and better flavors. And it's so neat because I now am no longer just the founder and coach. I'm the coach in the back seat. And I'm the backseat driver.
Yes.
They're the front drivers.
Everybody loves a good backseat driver.
I think to answer your question, what's coming up that's new, and what's coming up that's new is always so slow in the wine industry, right? Because So as an example, we have a new vineyard coming online this year. It's part of the where we source Emblem from, part of the Oso vineyard. And we've been working on the permits and the planting for 15 years. And so finally now, 15 years later, we'll have our first crop in 2020. So that's new and exciting for us, which only means that you have to wait 3 years to get it in the bottle.
Okay. Everything good is worth waiting for, right?
Yes.
Especially in the wine business, especially in the wine. Yeah, you cannot rush that. Well, is there anything else you'd like to add, or any other Father's Day stories anyone wants to share?
Just hopefully all the fathers are healthy and happy. And just a Father's Day wish as we get through this virus that is affecting everyone. And remember, as Louis Pasteur said, wine is the most natural and healthful of all beverages. Enjoy it in moderation.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, the grapes don't know that COVID's going on. And it's a beautiful, absolutely beautiful growing season this year. Napa Valley also just started opening up the tasting rooms. And so what's really lovely is when you're coming to there. So the picture shown right now is the typical size of a cluster of grapes that's happening in Napa Valley. And this will actually be a red cluster of Cabernet Sauvignon later. So the grapes are doing beautifully. There's my hand, a little dirt under the fingernails. Sorry, everyone, for having dirty hands. And it's just absolutely wonderful to see how well the growing season is. But tasting rooms in Napa Valley. So come visit. We're starting to open up. You'll find that the tastings will be more private, more exclusive this year because of the county rules and regulations, because of COVID. And I think that you'll find that we've set up very safely here to welcome guests and collectors back. So definitely come back and visit us and our neighbors in Napa Valley.
Yeah,
now,
come to the wine country. Yeah. But even just, I mean, the day today is so beautiful. Just kind of reminds me of how much it's a beautiful place to be. It's a beautiful place to be outside. And that's kind of what we're doing with our trips these days. So that is, go visit Napa Valley. That's
great. And thank you and Michael for having Wine.com make wine available to people.
Yes.
In a very, very wonderful selection way. So
yes, and we have many of these wines. So if you didn't get these 3 wines, we still have them as a kit. We have a lot of wines from Michael Mondavi Family Estate, as well as Folio, your wonderful partners. You have such an amazing selection of wines, I think, with such a great focus on quality and family. And I just love that you're part of this amazing legacy that you are continuing on with that same love and passion. So thank you.
It's great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Happy Father's Day to everyone. And we appreciate you joining us. And I hope everybody enjoyed these wines as much as we did. So cheers.
Good health and happiness.
Health and happiness.
It's both a science and a form of high art. It's made from the combination of grapes, sunlight, rain, soil, and time. It's raised up in the moments that matter. It's wine. And we are Wine.com. We have the largest wine selection in the world, online sommeliers with free advice, and now our powerful new app puts the entire world of wine in your hands. Wine.com, seriously passionate about wine. Download our free app today.